So this is video number 3, I think. We're going to talk more about spaced repetition, which is the only way I teach, basically, or not the only way, but it's the best way, I don't know about that. But it's the only way I teach. And we looked at the flashcards in the last video, which we made with the students. And it does, you have to sacrifice a whole class, but what that does is it kind of primes them. It kind of says, we're going to be studying these words in English and Spanish over the next month or 2 months. And it primes them with all the vocabulary. So you have to draw all the family, all the types of weather, all the types of food, all the school subjects. And they remember that. They remember, oh, we did family, school subjects, and they remember that for the next couple of classes because that's what we're going to be studying. And we're going to do, the idea is to do large quantities, to do like immersion English, not just small bite-sized segments, which always you get in the language classes, and the students take too long to learn because it's ridiculous. So I explained the technique basically about spaced repetition. The idea is to, you know, spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is really basic psychology, which says there's a forgetting curve, and when you get taught something, you forget it very quickly. In about 3 days, you forget everything. This is why you study to pass an exam in school, and then you forget everything in the next 3 days. In everything, like 95% of what you learn, you forget. And obviously, spaced repetition, the idea is you repeat the same thing you've learned again the next day, a day later. So, for example, you repeat, and the second time you don't forget so quickly, you forget a bit slower. So like this. You still forget everything if you don't repeat the same lesson. And then you do a third repetition, maybe not a day later, but 2 or 3 days later, here. And every repetition that you make, you forget slower, so you retain more information. If you do 3 repetitions, it's good. If you do 4 repetitions, it's better. And that's my nice graphic. I think you probably can't see anything. That's like the first repetition, second repetition, third, and then fourth. And the 4th repetition can be after a week or 10 days, I don't know. And then the 5th repetition after a month, and then 6th repetition after a couple of months. And after you do about 6 repetitions, it should stay in your memory. Maybe you can do 10 repetitions. I don't really mind. We can do a lot of repetitions. When you're immersed in the language, this is what happens. You have spaced repetitions. You keep asking people, how do you say this? How do you say this? How do you say this? Until you learn it. And then you forget it again. And you say, oh, I knew that. I just learned it. And you forget it again. And they ask someone, and they tell you. But every time you retain the information for a longer time. So you don't have to ask so often. But you still ask a lot. I did that loads when I was learning Spanish and French. You just keep asking people things until you don't have to ask anymore. The idea is to give our students like lots and lots and lots of contact with the language, the target language we should be learning. And we do that playing a game. We're going to play a game which is like Go Fish, or Have You Got, or something like that. It's called Have You Got. And they're just basically trying to find pairs. And there's a couple of variations on the game. The game is really straightforward, which I'll probably explain in the next video, number 4.